Hello and welcome back to day 2 of Crypto Basel. I am joined by Sky, who's a collector and also a creator in the space. He has some really cool projects that he'll be talking about today, along with Sven, who actually was collected by Sky. So we got a request for both the artist and the collector to be in conversation with each other. We've heard your request, we've honored that, and we brought on 2 people that we admire in the space who are doing fantastic work. Sven, Sky, I'll let you take it away.
Great.
Thanks for being
Thanks
here.
so much. Yeah,
thank you very much.
It's cool to be a part of Crypto Basel. I know that it's mainly focused on like music and film, I think, but I know there's a few different tracks. Like there's a tax talk, which is obviously important, and then this talk has like a environmental connection, and on top of that, environmental like connected to the crypto world, and so something in the real life connected to the digital world and how you can bring those two things together. And so I'm Sky. I've been in the Ethereum space for a few years. I'm a big fan of like NFTs, DAOs, and DeFi, and I've been working with a bunch of projects that relate to those. And then I also am, as a part of the NFT world, I've been a long time fan of digital art and NFTs and the metaverse in general. And so I'm happy to be, I collect some things here and there. And so I'm happy to be here with Sven, who is one of my favorite crypto artists. And there's a bunch of reasons for that, but I'll let Sven introduce himself and just give a brief introduction on his background. And then we can dive into like the core of this talk, which revolves around this piece that's behind me, but it's even more than that, so we can go through all those different pieces. Well, let's Sven take it from here.
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, thanks for the opportunity to talk about my work and like the entire crypto space here today. I think it's like very exciting and like a very nice program to have for us as artists, like this platform to talk. I'm a digital artist, mostly digital, not only, based in Los Angeles, California, but originally from Germany. And yeah, I've been entering the crypto space about probably a year ago as an artist, but before I was just interested and was following along Ethereum, etc. But ever since I joined it as an artist, I think it's really fantastic. It's really empowering artists to not only sell their works, but have this whole new tool set of like crypto and tokenization as a part of their like palette of creating art. And I think like this is something I try to achieve with the work we're talking about today. And yeah, like, I mean, I would just start like walking everybody through the piece and what I tried to achieve with it, and sort of like the
Sven, before we get into this piece, just a little more on background. You know, we knew each other for a few years now, but like I've heard you say in the past, like from your digital art like perspective, that you make art for the internet, and so that's like a pretty cool statement that I think. And if you could maybe explain to the audience what you mean by like I make art for the internet, like what that means, and then that will probably lead to like what you've done in crypto art, and then get to this piece. So
sure,
like, hearing
yes,
why
yes,
you say that
sure.
would be cool, yeah.
Sure, yeah, of course. I mean, I think like if you're like a digital artist, I think it's like the most natural place to do art and draw your attention from is like the internet, because like where else really would you, like we all use like the same softwares and using like I guess most of the people, they trust everything they know about like doing art and using all these softwares. Like you learned like online, you learned on the internet, so it's naturally to like have your creative process like channeled back again towards like that medium where it all came from. So that's really what I mean when I say like I do like art for the internet. I guess just like the space everybody's like, you know, like drawn into. And of course now, like with crypto, there's just a new layer like to all of this, right? Like before, like most of us who were just like making our like works and then just sharing them online, and sharing it with friends, and like create memes, like sending memes to friends. Like I still like love doing memes and all that stuff, right? And just, but like not with like a real like artistic purpose. But of course now you can scale that, and crypto gave everybody this amazing opportunity to not only like create work but also sell it, and also use those cryptographic tools and like the power of tokenization. That it's like I think it's almost like a privilege to tokenize your works, and now we all have that and we can use it. And of course with great power comes great responsibilities, right? And I think now that artists like understood that, they can channel that energy and that power to more like like just like circling around narratives that are important to artists, such as like climate change, and how we can actually do purposeful work related to contemporary issues.
Yeah. So I think in general, and the reason I like a lot of your art in general is that I think almost every single one of your pieces from the start, like it's not just like a cool looking digital piece of art, but almost all of them have like a really specific meaning behind each of them. And some were related to internet memes, and then eventually you were doing stuff in the DeFi space, like related to the one behind you. And it really like targeted a specific event or a meaning, and then there's a like a play on that, right? And then you also clearly have an interest in the environment, and I know that you the first that I saw it related to crypto art was Sven was the first artist drop on Don't Buy Meme, pineapple farming digital art, right? And one of the things you did was you you made all of the transactions related to all the activity related to the art that you released on there, and you offset the emissions of that. And then that was like, a statement for me that was really cool, and a lot of people probably really thought that was awesome.
Yeah.
And then you got to like this next piece, or there's stuff in between, and so it would be cool to understand like why environment the globe and the environment is such a strong like passion, or why it means so much to you, and why you decided to put it into like your first pieces of art related to that, and then this piece as well.
I mean, how it all started for me was that I care about the environment deeply. I think most young people do today, and I think that is like, just generally speaking, like a fantastic circumstance. When I created the meme drop, for the first time, I had a lot of Ethereum transactions related to something I did on Ethereum. Before, of course, like you stake some here and you buy some here, send some there, like couple of transactions. But when that like meme liquidity pool went live, all of a sudden there were like hundreds of transactions like related to what I did on the blockchain, right? So I thought, okay, well, if there are like so many transactions, like there must be some carbon related to that. And actually then I talked to Damien, like he runs a little service where you can type in your ETH wallet and you get like a CO2 balance of your personal ETH address, right? So like he reached actually out to me, and like we will start talking about it, and it's like, hey, is there any way we can audit like the entire like Ethereum contract related to my art drop? And like they were like very like still like they were helping me like a lot, and they were helping me in analyzing all of that with Offsetra, and they calculated, like actually they came up with this whole new mechanism on like auditing Ethereum smart contract addresses on CO2 emissions related to them. So that's what they did, and we came up with the tonnage of CO2 related to my outdrop, and then I choose to offset that, which back then I just paid by myself, like because you earn some money. and I just paid it, and I realized that people in the community were really open to that, and they thought it was like great, and a lot of people were talking about it. So I thought like, hey, like this is actually really powerful, and what if I not only offset a bit of CO2 like on the side related to my art drops, but what if I make that whole like CO2 offsetting process and the actual emissions part of the art, and actually make it not only part, make it like the core of the art, and have the like the mechanism of tokenization take that like real world CO2, put it on the blockchain, and then like attach an art piece to it, which I think is, you know, like is like related to it, and make that available for a collector to collect, right? So I would be just the facilitator. I create the vehicle onto which the CO2 is attached and just facilitate that transaction for somebody else actually. So that was the whole idea. That's how it started. Like sometimes I don't even, like it's hard to trace that thought process in the back, because like it's just something that like to me happens, and then I do this, I do that. And yeah, so it's nice to, if other people like Sky in this case like values, like sees the value in it, and actually sometimes I think like maybe even understands it better than I do when I just do it.
Yeah, cool. I think it'd be cool. I'm gonna try to share the. Let me see if this works. I'm gonna try to share. What do I share? The actual.
So you have permissions to share now.
Great.
So you can go to, I think it's a green button on your iPad.
Yeah. Let me. Okay, I think I got it. So as I show this piece, can you guys see that?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's cool, because I can't. Well, okay, Sven, so as hopefully, yeah, if everyone can see that it's a video. This is the super rare page. Let me make it a little bigger. If you could describe, if you maybe describe it in your words and
Sure.
piece, that would be cool. Yeah.
So when I started, like first of all, before like the art piece really really evolved, I came up with the concept, right? I thought, okay, I'm going to take like 1,000 tons of carbon. That's like a lot. It's like 40 years of like like average American person's like carbon emission. I'm going to take it, I'm going to buy it, and I'm going to put it on the blockchain. So that was sort of my plan. And then I was thinking, okay, like now what the work is supposed to show, right? So I was thinking, okay, if we really try to quantify carbon here, why not showing like a globe and show like for every kilogram of carbon dioxide, like a black dot, like a black particle that is like then like dissolving slowly. So yeah, I pretty much, but then I thought like first I took like a normal, just a world globe, but it looked a bit too, you know, everybody's seen like the world like a million times on like photographs on the internet, and related to like carbon emissions is like sea level rise. So I was thinking like, okay, like let's take the world and like take all the land away, right? Which eventually, I mean, it's not going to happen like just from like sea level rise, but I just thought that would be like a nice metaphor for rising ocean levels. So that's what I did. I left the clouds and I just took like 1,000,000 black particles and dissolved them slowly over the course of like a couple of seconds. And yeah, representing the CO2. By the way, like if you're going to check the QR codes on the bottom right of the work, it will lead you directly to the Vera registry, where the carbon that was offset is just like, it's just a public ledger from the it's called a verified carbon standard, where you can actually retire those carbon units, and it will lead you directly to the registry pointing on 1,000 tons of carbon. And also in the registry, like as like the owner of the carbon, the M carbon dioxide is titled. So it's very like it's provably linked. Yes. So yeah, that was the idea. That was the idea.
Super cool. So some observations that I had, like just to talk about like the not even the meaning behind it yet, but like the actual the visual of the piece. For me, like the fact that it is actually and people need to like go to the site and really blow this up and like look at it and watch it like for a little bit over and over. The fact that you can actually see and visualize like 1 million small particles, and you know that it's a million and that they disappear like over this 10 seconds or whatever. For me, that's like a super unique like thing that is hard to even imagine that can be done, right? Like 1 million particles. Okay, yes, they're mostly like grouped together very tightly, like at the outer, I guess, like the ozone. It almost looks like an ozone layer to me. Right. And then you see them disappear, and the Earth without the land makes it more special to me. And then having the QR codes just sitting there and like anxiously waiting, like people like it like makes you want to know what those QR codes. So you could put this up anywhere in the world, and people will like see this cool video, and then they'll probably scan the QR code, and then they'll see what it goes to, and then you actually see that there's like real land. I guess it's through Offsetra, right? Is what it's called, but it's like
yes, Offsetra facility.
Sorry.
No, Offsetra is like they facilitated the transaction. Like they curate those carbon projects, because not every carbon offset is like equal. It's like all from it's like a global like carbon market, and Offsetra, in my opinion, like a very, very like great organization. Like they curate those carbon projects and choose like the most efficient ones. And then I purchase the carbon from them, and they retire it in the Vera registry, which is like an internationally accepted organization, like operating from Washington, D.C. And they just run the public ledger, which where all the carbon is registered.
Super cool. Yeah. And so still on like visual observation. So are you aware of, have you heard of the overview effect?
I did. It wasn't like, to me, this is like really awesome, because yeah, like so much things like you see in it that I haven't necessarily considered while doing the art. So this is actually like super exciting to hear what other people see when they see it, right? So yeah.
So for those that are listening that aren't aware, like the overview effect in general is like when astronauts go to space, they like have independently, many of them have independently like documented that they experience this like cognitive shift in their awareness of the Earth, and it like changes them for the rest of their life. Like when you see the Earth from outer space and you see this little ball, it changes your perspective, and it changes your perspective forever, right? And some people also say that about experiences they have in like VR, for example, where someone can go on a tour in VR, right? With still being in their bedroom, and they get toured around an African village that is like has very little water, and no one wastes water, and they see like how water is treated, how special it is, right? And then like without even consciously doing it, for the next year, they like turn off the faucet right away. They waste no water, right? So this VR experience changes them in real life for good. And the overview effect of an astronaut going to space changes them in real life for good. And so this piece actually, like, it's a combination of those two. Okay, maybe it's not as strong as either one of those combined. But if you think of that, like if you sit here and watch this piece, you start to realize like the effect that humans and technology has on the earth, and how this is one way to, you know, move it in the right direction / solve that. And so that's, for me as the collector of this, that was pretty cool to see, and that's things that I've like learned from it. And the other really cool thing for me, which is you know, not very common in this space, is that you can correct me if I'm wrong, Sven, but well, you basically had funded this piece. This piece costs a lot of money to make, right? You funded this on your own. You worked with a couple different organizations who also Super Rare and Offsetra, I think, and maybe the other one, that you know, waive their fees, right? And you ended up selling the piece for the exact amount of the actual cost of this carbon offset. So like,
right.
So Sven made
Yeah,
zero money on this piece of art.
That was actually really important to me. I wanted to create a work that, like, where nobody in the entire chain is like profiting from it, like economically. So yeah, big shout out to Offsetra and Super Rare, because they both agreed to waive their like fee. Like Offsetra usually has like a small processing fee for their work. It's really small, but it's still like a bit. Then also, like Super Rare takes like a couple of percent. But they, when I explained them the idea, they all like really liked it and said like, yeah, no, like if you do it, you like we won't charge anything. So that was exciting. Of course, like myself, I didn't charge anything. So I purchased the 1,000 tons first, like just with my own money, and attached it. Of course, like with like an open end, right? I thought, okay, if I don't sell it, I just keep it myself. Like that's cool too. Like I own the carbon. Like that's like, I thought like it cannot go wrong, right? Like if I keep owning it myself, and like 15 ETH is like too expensive for that, it would have been fine as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the idea. Also, I thought like there was a lot of, in my opinion, debate about you know, artists like earning too much money, or like maybe not too much. Like that might be wrong, right? But like a lot of like the money is like flocking to like a couple of like famous artists, and then so many other people trying to like sell their art, but nobody cares. So I was just trying to do something where I take like the whole financial motivation out of like the equation, right? And I wanted to prove that you can do like great digital art not by a like economic, like economically motivated, but still not taking out the economic incentives, just relocating them to a purpose rather than a person. Yeah. But that was more like, that was just like a side thought. That was not like the core of like my intent.
Yeah, awesome. And as a you know, collector of something like this, like in general in the NFT world, my favorite part of the emerging NFT world is actually like NFTs that can own other things. So even better if it's NFT art, but NFTs we're seeing now can own other things. Pretty soon you're going to have NFTs that like run themselves as businesses or like whatever it is. But very simply, currently, it's like the basic building blocks. So like async and stuff, you have programmable art. So you have programmable NFTs, and then you have NFTs that can own things like interest-bearing assets. So you can have NFT art that owns CDAI or other assets in the DeFi space. You can have NFTs that own like other wearables. So you could buy a piece of art that owns a wearable that you can then wear in crypto voxels. And then in this case, you can have an NFT that actually owns something in the real world. So it not only owns an asset, but it's a real world asset, which is quite different than everything else I just described, where it's owning other digital things. This is connecting in a provable way a real world asset, which can't really be mistaken to the digital art, right? And so that is for me the future. Like I see a future where almost all digital art owns something. Okay, we don't, it doesn't have to, right? You can still have beautiful digital art that has great meaning and stuff, and some will not own other things. But I see a future where most digital art will own something, in addition to it being a digital piece.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with this, and I think I would absolutely agree with this, and I think it also makes the entire, like, it just gives so much more power and purpose to the whole like instrument of tokenization. Like, I really see tokenization and crypto less as a marketplace and more as a creative tool. So if you really assume that like that all of this like mechanisms are just like building blocks, like you can create like art pieces that nobody ever like could imagine before, right? You could have like art that owns itself, or that is like it's connected to conditions. You could have, I don't know, like have like oracles feeding into your digital art. And I don't know if you could make a piece of art that's super valuable, and if like global climate targets aren't reached by 2030, it just burns itself, and whoever owns it, he loses it. So the only way to preserve it is to fulfill certain conditions. And I think for artists, this is like a very, very powerful tool set, which yet hasn't really shown its full potential, in my opinion, but I believe it will. And yeah, and I mean, I always try to innovate and find new ways of using it. And it's not always easy, because as a creative, I'm not very familiar with writing code, and you absolutely need people to write code in order to really use all those capabilities. But one thing that was fantastic in my learning, that when I approach people in the space with an idea I have, I usually always get like support, and people are always eager to help. And I think like that's also something I believe like makes this space so powerful, that people who share that vision and believe in it, like they really help each other. And yeah, and in the end, like now talking to Sky and like and learn all that stuff like that he sees when collecting my art, and just like reading it, looking at it, like it makes me very happy, because like this sort of like interaction like sort of like makes it all work, right? And really like levitates that whole crypto art like concept onto a next level, in my opinion. So
Cool. That what you described with the art, where like if global emissions targets are not hit, like it burns and it disappears, and you like lose your art, right? I call that kind of incentive based art, like where there's incentive built into the art. So imagine you have like 100 of those pieces, and they get sold to 100 different people. Now you have 100 people that are like personally incentivized to go out and make sure that the world reaches those emissions targets. Otherwise, all of them lose their art, right? And you could have that open-ended. And so then they are also incentivized to go get other people to buy that art, to then join the same cause that has the incentive of that art built in. And ideally, the money that is being used to purchase that art also goes into accomplishing the cause or reaching the goal of the incentive that's built into the actual art. And so I think like art, I call it like art with a force, or like incentive-based art. Like that is also the future of in this space. And then the other cool thing about, like you said, like if you said if you didn't sell it, you're okay with holding it. And at some point in the future, like you have this asset, which is like 41 years of the average person's offsetting their own personal emissions, right? That's an asset that you can like pass down to your children. Or if you wanted, you know, after 20 years you held it, you still have another 21 years of offset left that you could then sell it to someone, or you could gift it to someone, or you could, yeah, you know, there's so many things you can actually do with it, that, you know, like to get even more complex, like if I'm not a big consumer of emissions, like maybe it holds like emissions value longer. And if I'm a big user of emissions, then it becomes like worth less over time. And that kind of relates to me, what my personal activity does. And so if I wanted to maintain close to 41 years, like I try really hard for the next 10 years not to use any emissions, and I can prove that like on chain, then it still has, instead of 41 years, it still has like 39 years, even though 10 years have gone by. And then I could like put that together and pass it or sell it to someone. So like that kind of thing was impossible before crypto NFT art and like you making this piece. That like was, no one was thinking about that. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. So so like related in this like environmental connection to NFT art, do you have any future plans for more things related to that connection or that space? And then in
absolutely. And in fact, I'm actually I actually work on some more pieces in like following like the same mechanism. Right now I work with Kodame, like they have like an art festival, like actually like in the middle of the month. And I will tokenize some more CO2 related works, but also some other works like where like I attach other like tangible items to NFTs or in the pipeline. So actually starting this whole CO2 work has really triggered like a creative process, and also a lot of people are reaching out to me who really like the idea and were asking, about like all sorts of stuff to be tokenized. So I will definitely scale it. And I would also, like invite everybody else like to copy that idea. I really would love to see more people like attaching CO2 or like maybe things like I haven't even thought of, like, I don't know, like technically, like I think like I talked even about this with Sky, like you could have like a forest that owns itself, like every tree has its own NFT and is like self-governed by it. So like this idea is really like infinitely scalable, and I would love to see other people like doing like similar things. And yeah, I really believe that in the future everything will be tokenized, and especially in an like for like artists, like that is like a huge uncharted like playground where we can experiment and try to use it like with a like purpose.
Cool. I have like so this type of art I think that you're creating, and I think I know it's kind of, well, there's two things. There's like the crypto world, then there's like the NFT crypto art world. And I know for a fact that your art has pulled people from the crypto world into the NFT crypto art world. Like I think the piece behind you, which was like a big DeFi related piece that, you can maybe talk about it, but like Sushi Swap versus Uniswap like thing. I know that there's a big crypto guy that I think purchased that piece, and that was like his first NFT he ever bought. And so the fact that your art, because of the meaning behind it and what it is bringing people from crypto world into NFT art world. I'm wondering, and I see like other versions of this like M carbon dioxide art also even bringing people from outside of crypto into crypto and into NFT art crypto world. So I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on like if you think that can happen, or do you think this is still really niche and it's hard to pull people in?
Well, it always depends. I think for people who are already in the crypto space, like they get it. And sometimes, usually, I mean, I've like the way I observed it, like a couple of people like who already knew like Bitcoin and Ethereum, and they were like sort of on the side with like NFTs, but then like they saw like a piece they really wanted and it was like over for them. And so I think I've been observing like that a couple of times. And even myself, like I collect digital art as well under a like fake name, because I don't want that people like see me collecting it. So I collected as well. And it was the same. I was like, first I was like only an artist, and I thought, okay, I need to have this, right? And it was just like over. So I think crypto people are easy to convince, but people from the outside world, or like let's say outside world, like from like just like from more like conventional, traditional like backgrounds, like they like for them it's not that easy, but I think it will change as well. And especially if we make that link to actually tangible products connected to the NFTs, it will become way easier. So for example, what like our Sora is doing, like I'm a huge fan of their platform. You can actually, like, once you bought like the token, you can redeem it for like the actual object or physical item like at any given moment, but the market for it develops like way before you redeem. So that is like a genius idea in my opinion. And yeah, like right now we're just early and we're all experimenting, but I don't know, I don't even think about it so much strategically and like will it grow and how can it grow. Like for me, I think it's just like a given that it will. And I consider myself more as a like creator, and I want to make sure that it grows into like a direction I myself find desirable. And I think that really is like the power of, or like also like the opportunity of like artists today, that you can reach like so many people over the internet again. And yeah, I think like it's such a great time to be an artist, and especially if you do it like if you got looped into this like whole crypto platform, you're just like a little bit like ahead of everybody else. And I don't know, it's just cool. I mean,
Yeah. So you might like this fact. So I used to work, I also in like social commerce, which was like driving e-commerce from social platforms like YouTube and social media platforms, like, you know, which is a huge part. And it's like it's a fastest growing e-commerce segment, like social commerce, we call it. But one of the things that like was mainly driving was like fast fashion and makeup sales, right? Okay, those are both very popular, but fast fashion, and for me, I kind of have a problem with fast fashion. Like fast fashion, like traditional fast fashions, like you buy this really cheap clothes, like you wear it twice, guys and girls, like it falls apart and you throw it and it goes into a landfill. Like it's like probably like one of the worst things we can do, right? If I want to buy a shirt, I want it to last for like 50 years, right? And so in the crypto space, there's not much of this, but there is some products related to physical goods. Like one very popular one is called Unisocks. I don't know if you've heard of it, but like Unisocks, there were 500 Unisocks. And you actually, like you just described, you bought an NFT and you could redeem those, and they would send you anywhere in the world a pair of Unisocks. And there's been like 150 Unisocks that have been claimed. The rest of the NFTs are owned, and then there's like a balancer pool or a Uniswap pool. Sorry, a Uniswap pool, not a balancer pool, that has the NFTs where you can buy them. And all you need is 1.0 NFTs. Sorry, of ERC. They're actually ERC20 tokens, but to redeem the Unisocks. So, you know, actually to fund a portion of the purchase of this piece, which is like M carbon dioxide, I actually I had a pair of Unisocks, and that was one of the things that I sold. I don't have I had the token, not the physical one, but I basically like got rid of this claim on a physical sock that only 500 people in the world can have, in order to use the money to purchase this piece. So it was
that's
like,
awesome.
yeah,
That's awesome.
it's like a very strong like gesture of my views now on the world, I guess. And I was able to like
Yeah.
action that out on chain. and in a permissionless way, which is pretty cool. So I like that. And actually I have also farmed some of the pineapples from don't meme or don't buy meme, and some of that money was also used to purchase this. So it's money for these other things went toward this awesome cause.
Yeah, that's actually interesting to see, right? That it's almost, I mean, I really believe that this whole concept of like voting with money and, you know, like have like not only consume but be like a like educated consumer and I don't know, I think always like don't buy much stuff to begin with, right? But then if you buy, like think about it. And of course, like so far, I mean, in the crypto space, like we've been like so young that wasn't really a relevant debate, I would suppose. But now slowly it's becoming one. And yeah, like hearing this from you that you actually traded against like the Unisocks, like that's super crazy. I didn't know that, but I think now it's like even more awesome, right? That yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so I think we've covered everything that I had like on my mind. I don't know if there's
I mean, same
else.
for me. I think it was nice talking about it, also talking to you. Yeah, talking to you, like understanding what it means to you, I think is like super interesting from also like the creative point of view, because all of this, of course, now can be a factor in the future, and I can consider stuff I do differently than I did it like in the past. So yeah, I hope, of course, like in the future to live up to the same standards and create work that not only are aesthetically interesting and nice, but also have some sort of like deeper value and meaning to them. Of course, I still want to do the memes, right? Like I'm not gonna stop the memes, but yeah. But it's important for me, and I hope to see more people doing like environmentally, socially relevant work like on the blockchain. Like now we have that power, we have a market, we have the instruments. Like now it's upon us like to use it and use it wisely.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think you're doing a really good job of like leading the way in that space. There are a few people in the space that are, you know, pushing limits around these things, but you seem to, you know, have a pretty good mindset and focus on what you want to accomplish. So it's cool to see leaders such as yourself moving that direction. And I agree that I think a lot more people will start following in the direction that you're moving in. So yeah, thanks everyone for go check out the piece on Super Rare, scan the QRs and see the actual land. I think one is called I forget what they're called. Bull Run was the one from Don't Buy Meme, but I forget what these are called. But you can actually see the actual land where the carbon was sunk, basically, which is pretty cool. And you can see a map of it and actually where it is.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah. Oh, there she is. Hey.
Yeah, I didn't want to cut you off.
Perfect, Lady Phoenix. Thanks. I think we're all done. I don't know if you had any questions for us.
I mean, I do, but I also want to bring you guys back in February when we have our bigger show, and then you also have a bit more runway going with your project, and maybe you can show us some of the physical pieces. I think it'd be really neat to see if there could be a tie between, like a direct tie, maybe project-based, between what SVEN is doing and what you're doing with fashion and products and just governance as a whole. You know, I think that if we could have, you know, I often imagine being a sovereign citizen of the internet itself, right? And what that would look like if we were to create a model where we took all of these like sustainability ideas and, you know, ideas around, hey, we're gonna make this artwork or this product or this thing, and no one's gonna profit off of it. In fact, the only sort of benefits will be passed on to the earth itself or to this like community over here, but there's no actual commerce being exchanged. If we could embed those ideas into people who wanted to be citizens or sovereigns of a of a metaverse of a state somewhere, I think we could really see interesting shifts and, you know, put our sovereignty, our identity right on the blockchain for that. I'm really interested in
Yeah.
that.
So what you just described are DAOs, and those are happening, and they are happening in the DeFi space, the art space. Last time we had on this on the last video, we talked about governments, maybe, or countries being able to use this DAO format to have liquid democracy and things. And so that, yeah, that is all happening, and people can already get involved in these DAOs. Like, check out the DAOs on DAO House. There's DAO Stack platform. There's Aragon platform. These DAOs are happening and they exist. I contribute to a bunch of DAOs that are basically decentralized collectives all around the world of people, and there is no legal entity, and we're all going towards a mission, and we contribute and we get paid by these DAOs,
Right.
and there is no physical thing, and there is no, it literally is a on-chain collective of people all around the world, and there have similar goals in mind. And I think that connected with NFTs, connected with DeFi and crypto in general, will only get bigger and bigger for sure.
Yeah, that's what so that's the conversation I'd like to have with you guys. I think a lot of what you said is pretty self-explanatory, especially if, you know, folks go and do a bit of research on some of the earlier projects that Sven mentioned and you mentioned. Yeah, I'm interested in the how now do we take this innovation between the two of you, one as the artist, one as a collector, and someone also making progressive steps in the space. How do we then take that and see about building something else? Like, for example, if we were to do another panel, say it was the trash art panel, which got a lot of buzz and talk, I'd like to see those artists on the panel, you know, make something from having come together, right? So that's what I'm getting at. Is there a collaboration in the future for you and Sven? And if there is, right, can we feature that and talk about just even the possibility of that at our next event in February? I think that I love holding space with people and chatting, but now I want to see, like, if we can build or make something together that's related to our future goals, or just even the future dreaming. Let's do that. Let's actually start building and putting Legos with each other and making stuff. Like, all of these talks are great. I love chatting with everybody, but now I want to take each other's brilliance and see where we can Lego those together to create new possibilities. That's super interesting to me at the moment.
Awesome.
What'd you say?
One idea I'm actually developing in the background with Damien from Offsetra. Like, we were having this idea that we create like a little platform where artists can gift their works. Like, I do a piece and there are going to be 10 editions. And then you need to go to their website. You need to offset the CO2 for your Ethereum wallet. And once you did that, provably did that, you can mint one of these works like artists have donated to the platform. So, like, you would just create an incentive for people to have their entire Ethereum like transaction CO2 neutral. And like, artists would create the incentive for people to do so. So that is something like I'm working on in the background. And then, of course, like, if like other artists would like that idea, they would need to like donate their works to it. So hopefully we can build it. Like, it's always, you know, like, everybody has like 100 projects and like limited schedules, but that is something we're actually actively considering, and hopefully can present here like one day in this like forum.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be a whole lot of works. I mean, even if you take one or two works, right, and make that your goal. The thing is, Sven, how is it sustainable for folks? Like, how would it be sustainable for artists to do that as a practice? Are you saying, like, if they make 10 works a year, take one of those works and make sure that they are completely sustainable? Because if they're not going to be able to generate money, then we're back to the starving artists issue.
Of course. Like, you just Of course, like I see it as a donation that, of course, I will not from now on, all my works will not be like non-profit, but if I do like 1 in 5 that I don't take any like economical gain from it, I think I can survive that, right? And
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
and if not, then I just do one more than before. So I think if people would get that mindset that, you know, like 80% of the time you work for yourself and 20% of the time you work for a creative purpose, that like that is something where you can actively like contribute as an artist without like without need to spend even your own money. You just like give your time and you try to like facilitate something.
I love that. I do. I love that a
Like
lot.
it's like carbon sink farming, basically. You're incentivizing carbon sink, uh, carbon sinking.
I love
And
that.
it doesn't have to be like carbon. It can be like so many different things. Like one thing we did with the meme project, for example, like when we were developing that whole like NFT farming, and I did like the first like art drop, like Jordan and myself, we were like, hey, like why don't we take 10% of like the revenue and like the profits, and we just like donate it right away. And now that became like a rule within like the meme project. And I think every art drop like after me like followed that same like pattern and like donated like I think like 10 or 20% of the total like revenue to like some like social like project, or like it gets up to like it was like reconsidered like where the money goes for every like drop, but it was always some non-profit. And I think like little steps like this can really, I don't know, just like make a little impact and more important, like show an intent. And I think if we can do this and really like show that we can be like net positive on this like small scale where we are right now, then it's even nicer if we can like scale huge, as long as we keep this like net positive attitude.
I definitely agree with that. And I think that even, for our body, um, nutritionists say that you should eat only 80% full and leave 20, because you don't want to actually get to maximum fullness in your belly. You want to leave a little bit. And people who eat to satisfied but not full generally have a greater longevity and greater health. And so if we think about that in terms of a consciousness around the way we create art, we are creating for the 80% of our economic value, which will satisfy 100% of our needs, right? And then we leave 20% that we donate, our time, our efforts, our energy to the benefit of the earth or a community, something sustainable that, we're giving to that. I love that. I love that a lot. And even if it's not something all the artists want to do straight away, or creators want to do straight away, at least that consciousness and that mindset is now seated within the creative crypto community. And I think that if the creative
Yes,
crypto
yes.
community leads that, then it will be a sign for the rest of the creative communities to say, hey, we should maybe take on this philosophy or mindset. Brilliant. Really wonderful. Well, thank you so much, gentlemen. I've thoroughly enjoyed this chat, and I look forward to seeing you guys in February. If you're working on something individually or even together, that would be wonderful. And definitely, Sven, please keep us posted on the projects that you're doing regarding the offsets.
I will.
And Sky, want to definitely talk more about these various internet governments, these sovereign governments. I think folks will, at large and at scale, be looking for a type of sub-sovereignty, to their government, because there's a lot of uncertainty happening within the governments around the world, and folks are still looking for connection and meaning and belonging, and to align with values. And if we can't do it at large in our common society, certainly as citizens of the internet, I think we will find those alliances as a common theme among our social systems.
For sure.
Many thanks. See you guys in the future.
Thanks a lot.
And
Thank you. Bye bye.
bye-bye. you guys stick around. We'll be coming back at 1 o'clock for a pop-up gallery with Blau and Slime Sunday. Cheers, guys. Thank you.